Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of See What the Cards Have to Tell Us, episode 6, your universal coaching call from the cosmos. I'm your host, Eric Stearns, and I'm glad to be back with you. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I've done my last video and so forth and so on. Just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background on that. I've been engaged in a move. As a matter of fact, when I recorded the last video, I was in the middle of tearing down equipment and doing all sorts of stuff with regards to packing and all that stuff. So I got settled, new digs, as you can see here. Trying not to disappear here. New digs. Got a city in the clouds, as it were, and having some fun. Anyways, so yeah, just this is episode 6. Should have been episode 7, but that's okay. It's like I said, I can only do so much in so much amount of time, and I was under a lot of pressure to get stuff settled and so forth and so on. So, but we're back online, back on routine, and things are going pretty well so far. So I'm just kind of ironing out the wrinkles here and there. So anyways, I asked, of course, the usual question: what do we have to, or what do the present times have to offer us? And also at the same time, how can we navigate them? And it was interesting because I had a lot of revelations, both online and offline. I've been communicating with a lot of you about various issues, especially with regards to the certain conditions that are pervasive and that are being thrown in our face. And so, I figured I wanted to kind of include some of the stuff that I found as well. And it's interesting because when I asked the questions and I did the card layouts, it was very fascinating. What came through, because I was told, we've got to confront some things here, and we got to do it in short order because of the fact that things are really really changing at a rapid pace, and that's not necessarily for the good. So I'll explain how that happens in the interim, and also yeah, let's just get right down to it. I'll get to the administrivia stuff later on. So anyways, let's go here and let's go and take a look at our first spread. And as you can see here, we have the 5th tarot, as I've used pretty much all this time. And let me go here. So in the East, we have an interesting card here that says, it talks about the divine blueprint. Now, this is interesting because this comes in upside down. I'm seeing this in because of the fact that what's happening here is that it's coming in upside down on the East, which is basically what's coming up for us. This is not, what's coming up for us, or what's coming down the pike is not at all supposed to happen. As a matter of fact, it's something that is contrary to the divine blueprint and contrary to humanity. And so what's going on here is that of course, the powers that be know that they are on the ropes. They're backed up against the ropes, and they are basically going full steam ahead and throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at us. And it's, unfortunately, right now it's kind of working. And it's because of the fact that right now we lack momentum. We lack the active numbers, as it were, in order to move ahead. So what's happening here is that even though some people say this is divine blueprint, this is something that is given to us, given to us as a gift, made for us to slow down, so forth and so on. I don't buy that personally, because of the fact that I think what's happening here is that the divine blueprint is basically saying, look, I'm coming in upside down on the East because of the fact that what's supposed to happen here is not happening. We're not waking up. We're not shifting as fast enough in order to really counteract what's coming down the pike. And so that's why the divine blueprint comes up. So the cards basically kind of set with a set off with a nice little kick in the ass, if you will. So then we have the Eight of Fire talking about the fusion. Now, this is interesting. I looked at this and I was like, fusion. Okay, well, in the community sense, yes. What this means is that really what this is basically calling us to do is to not only develop our own communities within, but also develop the communities without as well. But mainly, it starts with from within and works its way on the outside. So what's happening here is that basically the Eight of Fire is basically saying, look, we really need to get our act together. We really need to kind of ask ourselves, where is our community, and what are we going to do? What is this going to look like? How are we going to rely on each other? How are we going to come together? And this is also in reference to the continuous division that is coming up as well. This is, something that is saying, look, our greatest support is our community, but our community is not there, so to speak, because of the fact that we're letting ourselves being divided by political views, by spiritual views, by another thing is that's coming up here is masking. It's becoming incredibly divisive as well. It's kind of like the sheeple versus the renegades, and this is really coming into fruition. As a matter of fact, what this is also telling us is that this is going to happen even more and more. And instead of really coming into discussions and really talking about the real facts, the real science, and sourcing everything, as it were, we're beginning to, we're continuing to be divided more and more against ourselves. And this is something that is extremely important for our evolution and our continuance. Now, in the West, which is our prayer and our greatest advantage, we are being called to the feet of the master, as it were. We're being called to basically learn that this is not only just a political / biological situation, but it's a spiritual situation as well, because of the fact that right now, one of the things that is happening here is that we're also seeing a contest of faith in whatever spiritual path you may belong to, versus faith in quote unquote science. Well, the fact of the matter is that we're being called to look at things at a higher level, at a higher plane, and really look at the truth, and really look at what it is that we have to learn here. That's why the initiative Lotus comes in, is because of the fact that really our greatest advantage is hearing that. Well, I hate to say it because it's kind of cliche, but the clarion call to coming forward and really looking at ourselves, looking at the truth of the situation around us, and really asking the questions that we really need to ask. And that's still our greatest advantage when we do this, and we do this more and more, not necessarily doing this in order to just be contrary to another party or whatever, but really looking at this and saying, hey, what the bleep is going on here? We have a chance to leverage that greater wisdom, as it were, that greater sense of being, that greater sense of, oh wait, things are not necessarily as they seem, and so here's the way that they're going to shape up. All right, so with the North, we have the initiative stones. What this is talking about is that the lesson that is being learned, the wisdom that is being offered to us, is that of going within. Going within, looking, diving deep, and really saying, hey, is this our truth? Is this our where we want to go? Is this how we want to turn out? What sort of world are we trying to take here? Okay, because of the fact that what this is saying is that we need to step back, and we need to basically be still, be come to a place of stillness and not be overrun by the 24/7 news cycle that is bombarding us. And I know I've been doing my own citizen journalism stuff, passing along information back and forth to a lot of you out there. Having some discussions. As a matter of fact, I've had somebody come and ask me what I thought about a certain video and so forth and so on, and I was able to give a lot of background, which I was very honored to do in order to help them make a more informed decision about what they were seeing. And this is really about what the wisdom is about: is being able to not only go within, but also taking a break and integrating things and really being able to think about things. So in other words, get the hell off the the addiction of the mainstream media, because it's not doing us any good whatsoever. So that is what is going on in the north. So we have, of course, the divine blueprint. We have the communities, the fusion, the eight of fire, and then of course we're being called to be at the feet of the master. And that's interesting, because the fact that being at the feet of the master is we're being the initiate of Lotus is really teaching us how to be still, how to listen to that inner voice, that the inner voice of the divine and God. Okay, so let's talk about the prophecy cards. Let's look at the Wheel of Fortune, which is upside down. This is saying that really what we think what we're asking for is not going to come around, is not going to happen. In other words, is that what's happening is that we are resisting via the divisiveness, um, via the the propaganda, the power grabs, and so forth and so on. What's happening is that because of the fact that we still are continuing to surrender our power and look for a Deus ex machina, as it were, a divine, the divine external hand to, basically set things right and set things, set things right and set things according to what should be. This is not happening because we are the ones who are resisting it. We are the ones who are resisting it because of the fact that we are still buying into the Bravo Sierra. And so what's happening here is that what this is saying is that we're getting in our own way in order to defeat, what does not serve us. And this is not good. This is not good at all. And as a matter of fact, the star represents that of coming to fruition, things coming to divine light, the final frontiers were of ascension, or basically coming into one's own power. That comes in upside down because of the fact that what this is reminding us is that we're not doing it from within. We're not listening to that inner voice. We're not listening to ourselves, and we're not allowing ourselves to listen not only to ourselves, but also to those around us. And so therefore what's happening is that these two cards are basically saying that we're getting in our own way. Okay. Now, having said that, we have the 10 of fire, which is talking about radiance. Now, again, what I said here is that we must depend on our own inner radiance in order to get through what's happening right now. I'm not going to say these times because I'm sick and tired of the cliche bull that's out there. But the fact of the matter is that we have we still have a chance, but we've got to reach within. We've got to go deep. We've got to allow ourselves to nurture and listen to ourselves, and therefore also being able to, as a result, listen to each other. Okay, so with that said, what these are saying is that really we're getting in our own way by surrendering to the divisiveness, surrendering to the propaganda out there, being sheeple, as it were. Okay, and I hate to use that, but guys, come on, time's running out here. We've got about 6 months at the outside to really get our houses in order. And it's not only the external houses, but also the internal houses as well. Getting ourselves together, standing up and saying no to all these power grabs, all these regulations and so forth and so on, because it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better unless a sufficient number of us really pass around that information and really get to a point where the politicians can, are and the power brokers and whomever that stand in our way say, well, sorry, there's nothing, there's nothing we can do anymore. The people have won, the people have spoken, and either they're going to capitulate or they're going to be thrown out of office. But we have to have the numbers and we have to have the strength in order to do this. Right now, what this is saying is that we're still getting in our own way. And it's because of the fact that not only are we expecting an external divine hand to do this, but we are, we're not listening to ourselves. We're not listening to that divine spark within. And therefore, geez, I never really thought I'd say this, but we're really not paying attention to our own faith. And because of the fact that we're not paying attention and discarding our own faith, whatever we may believe in, we're basically surrendering our power. And if we had, if we stood upon our faith a lot more and are knowing, as it were, then we would be much more powerful, and we would be able to say, we're not putting up with this. We're not putting up with masking issues. We're not putting up more with social distancing. We're not going to put up with these power grabs of, forced vaccines and so forth and so on. Because let me tell you, those of you, and I know that a lot of you in my audience are already awake, and I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but the fact of the matter is that we still need to keep things going. We still need to keep that flow of information. And at the same time, we need to not only rely on the voice within, but also with each other, rely on that discussion. So having said that, that's basically where we're going with on the fifth element. Or the fifth row, rather. All right, next slide. If you can bring that up, please. Okay, where am I? Oh, I see. Zoom out, then we can do it. Yeah, of course. All right, so let's look at the east here. We have transference, and we have the cave. Now, what's going on here? The transference on the east is basically talking about, buried in earth. Right now, we are going through the shamanic death ceremony. In the shamanic death ceremony, commonly that was involving digging a hole, quote unquote, digging one's own grave, and laying in it for a period of 3 to 4 days. And what this did was it was kind of sensory deprivation in order to help us realize the voice within and realize who we are, the tools and the wisdoms that we have to offer, so forth and so on. Right now, in a very real sense, we are being asked to basically die to what is, and being asked to basically talk with that inner voice, have that inner dialogue, have that really uncomfortable a really uncomfortable conversation with ourselves. Because right now it's interesting, and I'm going to bring this up a little bit later in the conclusion notes, and I'll source these in the show notes, so that way you can not only see the video but also the documentation that this video talks about. And specifically, it asks, are we being tortured? And part of that, and of course that's a resounding yes, we are being tortured, in many different ways, especially through what's called no-touch torture. And if you look on YouTube, if you look up the channel Amazing Polly, Polly, you'll find that she has a video saying, are we being tortured, or are we tortured? Something of that nature. But if you look that up, and I'll like I said, I'll have a direct link to that. She goes back to the 1975 document that Amnesty International actually published. And she goes into the definitions and relates that as far as how this is being done to us and so forth and so on. And it's fascinating. It's disturbing, but it's fascinating. Again, it's one of those deep, dark discussions that we really need to have in order to basically embrace light. So that's really interesting. So in the South, in the South, we have the cave, which is inverted. And this is basically saying that this is talking about retreat. Um, Now, this is interesting because of the fact that we did have some cards that talked about being in stillness, uh, being at the master's feet and going within and so forth and so on. But what this is also saying is that not only do we need to do that in order to discover our inner selves, but right now, what this is also telling us, moreover, is that we're retreating too much. This is not supporting us. Instead of having those dialogues, instead of having the dialogues with ourselves and each other, we're retreating, and this is being a detriment to our support system. And therefore, what happens is that when we are divided, of course, then we are conquerable, right? So that's why the cave comes in upside down on the south, is because of the fact that we are uh, we're retreating, we're running away from having facing the truth, and thus denying ourselves the ability and the power to do something about what's going on here. So this is something that is a situation that we really need to avoid. So, don't retreat. Don't, uh, you know, go within. Yes, go listen to that voice within, but don't retreat. We need to stand up. We need to act further, and we need to act more powerfully, and we need to do something a hell of a lot more than what we're doing right now. So, all right. So the next one is the medicine bag on the west. Medicine bag is very interesting because this talks about treasure. Okay. Now, this is interesting because this comes in upside down. This is saying that our prayers, as far as having a free, a free sovereign world, a free sovereign society, and being free human beings, is being answered, but we are not allowing, because of our actions, because of our division, because of our belief systems, as it were, are not allowing us to have those treasures. And really, again, we're looking at the treasures without. Really, it starts from the treasures within. So we're really missing the mark on this. We're really missing the mark as far as why we are, what we are praying for and what we are really doing in order to make those prayers happen. Because what this is also about is works of faith. Okay. When you pray for something, you pray for it, you visualize it, you do the ceremonies, you do whatever in order to make that happen. And then when you go out in life, you focus on what it is that you're praying, and also you take the necessary right actions in order to help make that manifest. And right now, what this is saying is that we've abandoned that prayer, and therefore we've also abandoned the actions in order to make this happen. So this is something that is really critical to our success right now, because what this is saying is that yes, the prayer is being answered by God or the universal, God, goddess, whatever you want to believe in. This is saying that yes, our prayer is being answered, but we're getting in our own way. Didn't I say that in the last deck? Yeah, I sure did. All right, so the crystals talk about amplification. Okay, what this is saying is that the wisdom in the north is also talking about our amplification of what it is that we're putting it out there. So in other words, this is a heck of a time that we're manifesting stuff, and it's because of the fact that right now the situation is getting extremely real with our, with our elected quote unquote elected officials, so forth and so on. And what we are putting out there is not only being reflected back to us, but it's almost kind of like a concave mirror, in the fact that the energy that we're putting into us is being focused back onto us, and it's being focused back onto us 10, 100, maybe even 1,000 fold. And so therefore, what we have to do is we have to watch not only what we're thinking, but also what we're doing out there, because of the fact that that's coming back to us. So if we choose to surrender our power, guess what? It's going to be taken away from us. Guess what's happening? Well, we've got these draconian measures that are being, all these asks in order to contain a certain, what, that are being foisted upon us, even though the real data shows that, hey, this is not as serious as we think it is. It's getting serious because of the fact that we are surrendering our power, and it's getting even more serious because of the fact that the powers that be are taking advantage of this. Okay. And so therefore, we really need to do something about it. We really need to resist. We need to raise our voice and say, we're not going to stand for the division of racism. We're not going to stand for, the shutting down of economies. We're not going to stand for a whole bunch of other things and the like, and things that do not serve us. And if we put that forward, guess what? That light gets focused upon us, and therefore it becomes a feedback loop that ends up becoming more and more powerful. All right. So that's that's the north. That's the wisdom that we're having to learn. We've got to learn that we got to learn that we got to get out of our own way. Otherwise, that obstacle is going to be amplified, and we got to learn that we have works of faith to do. All right. Now, so the prophecy cards, we've got the four-legged animals. What this is saying is that endurance is what is required in order to get this, in order to keep this going. This is not going to be a short-term battle. This is going to be a long-term battle. This is something that we cannot, take care of in a couple of days. I know that there is a lot of videos and a lot of commentators out there who, for instance, have this, what I call hopium of, the Q drops and so forth and so on, that, that there's a miracle coming, that Nisara and Jessara are going to come to fruition, and there's going to be this grand reset and so forth and so on, and so forth, and the fact of the matter is that no, that's not necessarily going to happen. Okay. I know that a lot of you will argue with me on that, but the fact of the matter is that we are the ones who have to do the work. It has to come from the grassroots, not from the top down. And that's why in the Mother Earth position, that's why the four-leggeds come up, because of the fact that they are reminding us that we have endurance, that we have to abide by. We have to keep going, and even when the victory is won, we still have to keep going. We have to be vigilant. We have to gain our strength, and so forth and so on. We cannot give up. Okay, because if we do, guess what? Contact tracers are going to be in our house. We're going to have, we're going to be made to wear masks in our own bedrooms, as it were. And there will be enforcement coming. If you think that the Stasi was bad, okay, 6 or 8 months from now, it's going to get worse. Okay, you want to talk about dystopian? That's what's coming down the pipe. So we've got to keep fighting the good fight, and we've got to do it even more so than we've been doing beforehand. Okay. All right. So the Father Sky position is talking about freedom, the birds reminding us about freedom. Okay. This is interesting. I looked at this and I'm like going, oh boy, we're not going to be free, and so forth and so on. What this is saying is that yes, we do have the chance to be free. at the rate we're going, the decisions that we're making right now is that we are not going to be free. We keep surrendering our power. We still keep, you know, we still keep abiding by these draconian measures and so forth and so on. We're not finding enough ways to resist, and we're not finding ways to stand in our strength. The freedom is attainable because of the fact that it shows up in the Father Sky position. But the fact of the matter is that right now we are drifting away from that. We are not drifting towards it. And what this is also saying, this is that there's a dual meaning here, saying that the freedom is from within. We have to claim our sovereignty. We have to claim our rights back. We have to take them back, because leadership is not going to give them back. Okay, they're not just going to give them back to us. I mean, these are politicians. These are political hacks, and what do they thrive on? What are their wet dreams? Oh, power and money and so forth and so on. And that's what exactly this is all about. And when we give those away to them, guess what? We're not free. Okay. Um, so just letting you know, this is what the cards are telling us. This is what we need this is what we need to learn and really, I think the video that I talked about earlier is a very critical piece in us realizing what's done to us, or what's being done to us, and what will be done to us even more so as the months continue. Because if things don't, if we don't really step up and say hell no to a lot of these situations, then guess what? It's going to be even more. We're going to be forced to take the needle. We're going to be forced to, log in as our beloved commissar Mayor Adler wants us to do, when we go to restaurants and so forth and so on, which is total BS. I mean, do you really want to be tracked that way? I mean, really? I mean, it seems so. I mean, I know that there's a lot of awake people in this audience, but I think you can agree with me by looking at the masses of people around us. They just, they don't give a damn. They're just abiding because of the fact that they are fearful. Okay, so this is not something that we really need to do. Okay, so we need to stand up to our own freedom, stand up for our own freedom, and say, look, this is what we want. This is what we're working for, and we will not quit. Okay, all right. Now, Feathers talks about restoration. Oh man, I really wish this was on the direct side, not the reverse side, because what this is saying is that what we need to do is restore the voice within, restore the power within, in order to restore what it is that we're missing. And so, therefore, what happens is that because of that, we're not being restored. We're basically, by our own collective actions, basically throwing away what was already there. There's some people, it's like, well, this is a great reset. This is supposed to happen. Look at the way that the environment is happening and stuff. That it's recovering. Yeah, I'll grant you that. But really, what about us? What about our health? What about our well-being? And what about our communities and stuff like that? There's a number of different issues that are not being discussed. The domestic abuse, the child abuse, even the child trafficking, so forth and so on. God forbid. All that stuff. We're not. We're in order to restore ourselves, we have to look at the truth. And again, this is talking about, if we want to restore ourselves, we've got to use common sense. We've got to be able to vocalize that. We've got to be able to stand up and say, hey, no way. And we've got to endure. We can do it for a day or two possibly, but you know what? Powers that be are going to say, well, we don't care. They're just going to be sparks in the pan. It's going to be a flash fire. It's no big deal, and therefore we surrender our freedom. and therefore we surrender our restoration. Remember, there's a lot of wisdom that is being offered here. That inner voice is being opened up to us. There's a lot of treasures here, but again, we are getting in our own way. And because of that, what we don't want to happen is being magnified, and that's why we say the cave and the crystals in reverse. We're not wanting to find that jewel in the cave, and so guess what? We're not going to do it. And you know what? I really don't want to be, and I know that a lot of the people in my audience who are awake and who are empowered, who are doing things in order to help us gain our sovereignty, are going to, we don't want to be the ones to say, we told you so. Okay, because we don't want to live in that world. And you know what? I really don't want to make sleepers or sheeple my enemy, because they're not, because they are still members of the human race, and that's what we've got to be conscious of. But the fact of the matter is that, again, where does the responsibility lie? It lies with us. Okay, all right. Sorry, I got to get on my soapbox a little bit here, but these are what the cards are telling us, and I totally agree. I completely agree. Okay, so looking at the animal medicine cards, we have otter medicine. Otter is, of course, talking about the divine feminine. This is interesting because of the fact that we are heading into the age of Aquarius, which is talking about the rise of the feminine. And what I saw was the rise of the feminine to meet the masculine, and therefore augment the masculine and become more of a synergistic society, becoming a more synergistic race, being a more synergistic human being, because of the fact that we've integrated these two polarities within us. Okay, and therefore, and it's really not polarities, perhaps it's more of complements. Okay, because we do have both male and female energy within us. Okay, and so what this is talking about is realizing our nurture. She comes in at the east because of the fact that we really need to nurture ourselves. Well, part of that, what did I say? We need to nurture ourselves by taking back our power, taking back who we are, taking back, and releasing the hatred, releasing the division, and so forth and so on, because that's masculinity. Okay, divide and conquer, and divide in, and and do this and that and the other, and really get things done, rah rah rah. Whereas the feminine is like, okay, where is the flow in this? Where is the nurture? Where, how are we being receptive to ourselves, being receptive to that voice within? That's what otter medicine is talking about to us. Okay, that she comes in the east for that purpose. Now, the thing that is going to support us the greatest is that of wild boar. Now, boar is interesting because of the fact that that also talks about confronting the truth, confronting what is, and all that stuff. And um, whether you've seen a wild boar or razorback or whatever, they're not something you really want to screw around with. Especially if they're if they're PO'd. And many of those, many of you who live out in the country will know exactly what I'm talking about. And so what this is talking about is that wild boar is reminding us that we need to confront the truth of what is. We need to confront the systems that have brought us the decay, the decline, the dystopia that is coming upon us so rapidly. We need to realize that time is running out. Okay, if we really want the free society that we've always dreamed of, if we want the empowered society that helps, that helps the environment, not because of we have to, but because we want to, and so therefore we open up to more innovations and so forth and so on, which are already out there, okay, but they've been suppressed. And we've got to realize that, hey, this suppression is only going to get worse. We need to do something more about it. So we need to talk about this. We need to confront it. We need to be more cognizant of it, and we need to take action. And Boar's strength is there being offered to us in order to help us do this. We need that wild boar energy in order to confront that unpleasant truth. It's unpleasant, there's no doubt about it, but it is the truth, and therefore we need to make it. We really need to make that decision. Do we really want this to be the continuing truth, and be even more so, or can we really make the change? Are we really willing to make the change? That's what Bohr is wanting us to realize. Okay. All right, take a deep breath here. All right, open medicine shield. Open medicine shield is basically saying, okay, what prayer are you praying? What is it that you want put out there? What is it that you want to manifest? What is it that you want to create? And so therefore what happens is that you know, basically the universe is saying, okay, what are you really choosing here? The time is now. We need to really make a choice as a society and as individuals, of what it is that we really want to manifest, because really what we're manifesting right now, what's coming down the pike in the next 6 months to and the few years afterwards, we're in deep shit. Okay. And we can right this ship. We can do it pretty quickly, but we really have to put some energy, and we really have to be focused on what it is that we want and really what we have to offer. And that's what the open medicine shield is about in the West. Okay. Now, in the North comes dolphin. Dolphin is talking about life energy, the soul energy, um, because really what we are learning is how to be stewards of not only that, the environment, so forth and so on, but essentially, not just elementally, but essentially, the essence is maintaining that life energy. We are the stewards of it because we are here, because we are helping to create and or destroy, depending on what our choice is about. This is what this is all about. What is life to us? Is it being led around by the nose, or is it being in our own power and being able to empower those around us, because of the fact that, again, that energy comes around and goes around. It is circle. Okay. Energy travels in circles. That's what gives it that vibration. And when you realize that, we are in essence kind of divine guardians of the divine spark, as it were, that's a heck of a responsibility, and that's a wake-up call. And I know that's pretty intimidating to a lot of people, but you know what? Sorry. I can't argue with what's in front of me here, and we can't argue with what's in front of us. Okay. um, I know this is a real kick in the ass, but it's what's got to be done. All right. And that leads me to the prophecy cards. We're talking about Fox in the Mother Earth position. Um, Fox is saying that we really have to be clever, and also at the same time be able to camouflage ourselves, in the situation, not hide, but basically either hide in plain sight or be kind of the chameleon. Not necessarily the chameleon, but moreover of you know um, being like Fox. Fox is very clever as far as how he hunts. He uses non-conventional ways. He observes. He basically um, he observes how the defenses are made, and he finds ways in order to get around those obstacles and so forth and so on. We've got to be clever because of the fact that we are our hen house is being rated by foxes, and that's kind of why he comes in upside down. The other thing about foxes is very interesting because of the fact that, especially up in the north, like the Northwest and Alaska, so forth and so on, fox also changes his color in order to blend in with his surroundings. So therefore, he becomes the kind of the stealthy hunter. In winter, he's white. In the springtime, in the summer, and so forth and so on, he may be brown and so forth and all that. He becomes hard to see, but he's there. We need to do that. We need to take on that energy and be kind of the subtle, the sly, the clever, so forth and so on, and go non-traditional routes of response to the power grabs and stuff like that. Yes, we can protest. That's a great thing, but we need to do more than that. And we need to do things that are different, that the, let's just say, overlords, the world's elite technocrats, whatever you want to call them, don't anticipate. We've got to be the ones who are clever. We are clever. Fox is reminding us that we are those clever hunters. We are the clever, obstacle defeaters and so forth and so on. But we don't see ourselves as being that. Okay, we need to be that. All right, we need to come up with unconventional ways, sharing of the information, getting the getting the information out there, getting everything, in ways that are non-conventional, sidestepping the obstacles, as it were, and not doing it that is predictable to the technocrats. But at the same time, we've got to take action. But what Antelope is also saying in the Father Sky position is that that action can be augmented. In other words, is that when we decide to take action, there will be more of those that stand with us. There will be more of those that will act with us, and that will increase the power. Remember what I said about the crystals being in the north, talking about amplification. Well, what Antelope here is saying is that we have the ability to take action, and our actions will be rewarded with more actions that are in parallel with what we are doing. So, there's a little bit of hope there. There's, I know this card reading has been a real ass kicker, but, at the same time, there is hope still, but we can't squander that hope. Okay. We still have to take action. Now, this is, I think, the seventh direction card, the way that we relate to everything is squirrel. Squirrel medicine is interesting. Now, Julie G is a good friend of mine. She calls herself the squirrel lady because of the fact that that's her totem. Now, squirrel is basically saying that we really need to evaluate our houses. Are they together? Are they financially together? Are they, what about our communities, so forth and so on. It goes back to what a friend of mine long ago, who was also a shaman, he did a lot of studying of the Hopi ways. And what he talked about is he talked about the coming times, what the Hopi elders referred to as the burning times. Wow, boy, isn't that synchronistic? Here it was, that conversation that I was first witness to was 22 years ago, and here it is. We are in the burning times. Things are being burned down in one way or another, not just literally. Our cities being destroyed and statues being destroyed and history being destroyed and so forth and so on, but our humanity is also being destroyed. It's also being burned as well. So what Squirrel is talking about is not only saving up for the future, saving up for the bad times and stuff like that, gathering resources, but also Squirrel comes in upside down is because of the fact that he's reminding us. And Julie, I'd love to hear your comments on this and share your comments on this, because I want to make sure I'm right on track on this. But there are several questions that we need to be asked. And this is what my friend was talking about. He says there are three questions. Is that, first of all, where is your food? Where is your water? Where is your shelter? But moreover, where are your communities? That's the fourth question. Okay. Where are those that you have to rely on when things get really real? And believe me, they are getting really real. Okay. And that's That's one thing that really comes to mind. But also, where is your spirit? Where is your soul? Where are your values? What do you align with? What are what is so valuable to you that you are willing to fight and defend it to the death if necessary? Those are questions that we really need to ask, and that's what is getting our house in order. And that's why squirrel comes in upside down, is because he's reminding us, not only do we need to gather physical supplies, but also we need to gather our inner resources as well. We need to gather our strength. Where is our strength? Where's our spirituality? Where does that come into play, right? So that's what Squirrel is talking about. So we're talking about confrontation of the truth in order to augment and be the guardians of life, and at the same time using the divine feminine, and also asking for what it is that we really want, and then of course being clever enough to take action, being clever enough to get our houses in order, because right now we only have about 6 months left in order to get our crap to get our shit together, as it were, for lack of a better word, and really be who we need to be. Okay. um, because right now time is running out. They know. The good news is that the technocrats